This conference will now be recorded.
All right, morning everyone. Today is Wednesday, March 16th. Hard to believe we're already almost at the end of first quarter. Been a busy first quarter, lots of things happening in the world and a lot of things happening locally with real estate. I have quite a few things I want to get to today. I'm going to start first of all with the injunction against the love letter ban. And I know most of you have received information about that. There was a lot of things that went out as soon as the judgment was made. Again, it's an initial preliminary injunction barring the enforcement of Oregon's ban on love letters. So in essence, it's done away with that ban. Very interesting in that when this hit, this is just before we had an executive committee meeting, and we discussed this ramifications of it at the executive committee meeting itself. And at the meeting, we had two attorneys present. One attorney, Jeremy Rogers, who is the Oregon Realtors attorney, and then of course Ginny Pakula, who is the executive officer of Oregon Realtors. She's also an attorney, and we again talked about the ramifications. And for practice moving forward, the anticipation that the preliminary injunction will be upheld. So in other words, the thought here is that this will become permanent. We are not going to have if this ban on love letters going forward. However, that doesn't change the fact that it's important for us to make sure the decisions of our clients are made based upon fair housing rules and regs. So we all know that if a seller is determined that they've made a decision on the purchaser of their home based upon a fair housing violation, that's not legal. And so it's important that, again, as we represent our people moving forward, that we advise them accordingly. How the interesting thing about this whole premise, however, if you read the complaint, the statement was made that the ban on love letters, in essence, violated free speech. And the judge who looked at this whole thing determined it, yeah, you're right, it does violate free speech, because when you have a buyer who writes a letter and talks about how they envisioned raising their family and a home, and can see that the love and care that the seller had in the home, and they want to carry that on to their own ownership of the property, that tugs at the heartstrings of the seller, which may make the seller want to sell to them over someone else who doesn't include that love letter. Now, in practice, we as realtors need to be careful that we don't coach our clients on how to write a love letter. In essence, we are saying, if you wish to write a love letter, you can. We will present it along with the package of everything. Now, if you are the listing agent and you receive a love letter in the package from the buyer's agent, you say, here is the package that came from the buyer. It includes a love letter. You need to make sure that you as the seller make your decision not based upon anything that could violate fair housing, but this is part of the package that the buyer is asking us to present. In the past, before this became such a big issue, we always encouraged them within our own brokerage to say, try to get that emotional connection with the seller so that they would pick your offer over someone else's. Now, often when we were first initially doing this, there was not such a thing as multiple offers. It was just a way of maybe sometimes getting the seller to like these buyers and be willing to maybe take a lesser offer just because this is all they can afford. They're tugging at the heartstrings, like I said again, and say, we want to live in this home and show the love that you have shown to this home as well with our own family. So in essence, we can have our clients write them. If they wish to write them, we as listing agents present them as the full package, but again, we encourage our seller to not make a decision that could be violating fair housing. Any questions on that at all from anybody? Everyone get that? It was one of the things that was very interesting. Again, the argument made that what we were basically doing by having the love letter ban here is banning something that has not been an issue. I haven't heard of any cases in Oregon in which someone is discriminating on fair housing in the choice of who they are selling their property to. And so it was one of those issues in practice, especially in the last couple of years. The ban and the concern everyone had on these was resulting in families being outbid by investors, which because like sometimes a family can only afford so much in a home, and be not able to make that emotional connection was costing them the opportunity to beat an investor who was just on sheer numbers could outbid them on the property. So, and as we as realtors are thinking that we want to encourage housing to all people out there, that is it's counterintuitive to what we're supposed to be doing. We are supposed to be encouraging homeownership to people. We understand how important homeownership is in generating wealth. We understand how important homeownership is in sense of community, sense of pride, all the emotional connections with owning a home. Does anyone have questions on that? If not, I'm going to go on to the next thing. Okay, no questions. Next thing here is this, and I think you guys probably got this as well. This is the call to action that came to us yesterday. It's a real big deal here. It is something is happening within the bureaucracy of LCDC, which is the Land Conservation and Development Commission. Senate Bill 100 that passed in 1973, which was the landmark state planning law that changed how we handle state planning within the entire within Oregon. What has happened is they're having a hearing that will change what we've been doing. This is the biggest change, and it's not coming from the legislature. It's basically coming from bureaucrats. The legislature elected not to make this change. They did not want to go this direction, but now the bureaucrats at LCDC are trying to do so. What they're trying to do, it's a climate-friendly and equitable community proposed rule that's going to shape everything where people live, how they get around, where they can park their cars in Oregon's 8 metropolitan areas. So we're talking Albany, Bend, Corvallis, Eugene, Springfield, Grants Pass, Medford, Ashland, Portland, Metro, Salem, and Kaiser. And the rules require high density levels without any analysis on the part of LCDC on whether these density levels are achievable in each of these diverse housing markets. And the rules will conflict with the landmark consensus middle housing development legislation that lawmakers passed in 2019. So the middle housing development legislation that the state legislature passed, which authorizes greater levels of density, that may now fail to meet the newly imposed minimum density requirements. So in other words, the bureaucrats are having an end round around what the legislature has asked to happen. So this call to action that went out, and you should have gotten an email about it yesterday, what they're asking everyone to do is, if you can see it's here, email LCDC commissioners to protect Oregon's housing from damaging land use rules. This has been quietly coming in, and people just have gotten wind on it. And so now we're asking everyone to click on the link on your email, go there. I did it yesterday and just hit a couple of buttons and send out this pre-made email to the people and say, please don't do this. Do not do this. We need to do what the state legislature does. The state legislature, of course, is beholden to the people who put them in there, the voters. Whereas here we have bureaucrats trying to make changes to what we do in our cities that is contrary to what the legislature has said. So that's the big deal here with this call to action. I hope everyone got that. Does anyone have questions about this? Okay, if not, then the next thing I want to talk about is this. And I don't know if you guys got this as well, but I know that I heard about this about 6 months ago. The Oregon Realtors has combined with the Economic Northwest to determine what impact has the state regulations on tenant landlord laws done to promote, or what was actually has been the impact of this as far as it goes with actual single family homes that are available for people to rent. And what they did is they did a study based upon what's changed in the Portland metro area from 2015 to 2020. We know the statewide land use laws passed just a few years ago, but Portland itself has been undergoing much more vigorous regulations prior to the point in time in which we started having these statewide land use, statewide tenant landlords laws passed. And so this study, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, it's really interesting. They were looking at single family detached rental homes in the Portland metro area, as well as Portland itself. And we all know that single family detached homes are a critical piece of Oregon's rental housing stock. And they share, naturally share an occurring rental housing stock with 3 or more bedrooms. Families like to live in homes. We all know that, as opposed to apartments when you have that choice. So they looked at what's happened here. And so what has happened between 2016 and 2020 in the city of Portland? They've lost 719 homes. That's a 28% reduction in the stock of detached rental housing. It's gone down significantly. So let's take a look at some of the charts here. This is the single family detached rental stock that's been decreasing. So it started off here in 2015 of 5,364. This is the Portland metro in the light blue, and the darker, I guess, teal color here is the city of Portland itself. And you can see from 2015 to 2020, the trends on both cases down significantly. We know within our own area, whenever we have a rental come up for sale, in particular a single family rental come up for sale, often we are seeing the buyer be owner occupied. So I just know within our own brokerage, we've talked a lot about how do we, what's the process now because of these laws to have the tenant who's living in that home be evicted. And there's steps involved, as we've talked about before. The seller has to provide a 90-day notice upon ratification of the contract, assuming the buyer is not going to assume that tenant. Again, if the buyer for the home is an investor, and that tenant's lived there longer than a year, they have the right to stay. But it's a step involved, and the end result has been, it was intuitive that this would be what would happen. However, we didn't have any basis of actually proving it. Now they do. This is what's happened in Portland. They have lost single family housing units that are rental. And there you go. I don't know what they're going to do with this, but it is proof now that the best laid plans of the state legislature when they passed the statewide rent control is that they wanted to encourage people to live in homes. They wanted to have tenants have the right to stay. And we all understand that. That's important, that everyone needs a place to live. But the end result, because of this, has been a loss of homes. Any questions or comments regarding this? Okay, if there's no questions or comments on this, now I'm going to go into our market. What's going on with the markets? So let's start with this one, slideshow from beginning. Okay, what we're going to do is talk about 3 things today. First of which, home prices. Second will be supply and demand, and third will be net worth, as far as it goes towards the national market. And when we get to the local market, you're going to hear some statistics that are pretty amazing here. But here we go. On the national market, it's been 2 years. If you think about it, March of 2020 is when we really started being impacted by COVID-19 pandemic and stay-at-home orders and all that sort of stuff. Since that point in time, you can see what has happened. We had an initial stoppage, almost a huge slowdown in the market, but then we've now seen since over at least the last year, this chart shows over the price appreciation as far as homes. Home prices are been going up. So in January of 2021, the price increase over the year before was 10% nationally. That does not impact the Oregon, it's Oregon market's part of that, but obviously this is national. February, March, it's gone up. And then of course in July, August, September, things were kind of on hold, around 18% increase, which is still a huge increase over the year before. And then at the end of the year, we started seeing this price increase creep up again. And we all know that prices are going up. People keep asking us what's going to happen, where's the top? Well, we'll talk about that just a bit too. Next thing here. So look at the change in prices compared to last year. This is a national chart. The national average, looking at fourth quarter of 2021, is up 17.5% across the country. If you look at the different states, some of these states have a higher increase. A lot of people we all know have been moving to Idaho, Utah, Arizona, Florida. Lots of people moving there. People moving to South Dakota, Montana, Nevada, a lesser amount, but still high. Oregon here is at 18.1%. So again, across the country, there isn't a single state in which there's a price increase. Everybody is strong. It's a very strong market across the country. So that's last year. Now let's look what's happened over the last 5 years. So in the last 5 years, Oregon has had a 57.4%. Idaho, 118.2% increase. Arizona, 84.2%. Sometimes people keep on coming to you as like, well, I can't buy now because I want to wait for things to start going down. Well, if you wait to buy, say you had that same thought process 5 years ago, you would have lost a 57.4% average increase in the home value if you bought a home in Oregon. So this is why we say don't wait to buy as far as the market trends where we are right now. Because if you wait, you're going to lose out in this escalation and the increase in prices. This is 5 years. Now let's go back even further. This is since 1991. So if we go back to 91, look at the increase in the value of homes. National average, 258%. Oregon, look at Oregon, 488.9% increase in value of homes. That outranks California and Nevada. That's one of the highest gains. The highest, of course, looks like it's Utah and Colorado. So the amazing amount of wealth that's been created as a result of people, if they had bought early, the prices having escalated, had gone up to that level. If you wait to buy, you're losing. I mean, it's just going to be more expensive next month, next year. So we also need to look at, we've looked at this before too, what do the experts predict that's going to happen for 2022? We had talked about the rate of increase, remember at the end of the year last year, 18 as an average, 17.5% across the country. The predictions, the experts said for 2022, they predict a lessened rate of increase. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be an increase. It's just at a lower rate, which is more in tune with how we normally see real estate grow. So the average of all forecasts is 6.1%, but we have CoreLogic at 9.6%, and the lowest is Zelman here at 3%. But National Association of Realtors, 5.1%, mortgage brokers, 5.1%, Freddie Mac 6.2%, Fannie Mae 7.6%. So the people, the experts in these industries, and they have top economists here, they all predict home prices across the country will continue to go up this year, just not at that extreme rate it did last year. And why is that? Well, partly tied into supply and demand. So we all know that we have very limited supply. And when you have a limited supply and a lot of demand, that's basic economics, prices go up. If you have a lot of supply and limited demand, prices drop. But in our case, this is what it looks like in real estate. We've talked before about a balanced market, a neutral market, 6 to 7 months supply. Home prices will only appreciate with inflation. So a very moderate, neutral market. The buyer's market, of course, is when home prices will depreciate. It's more than 7 months. That's more inventory than there are buyers. So buyers can pick and choose, they can bargain, they can finagle over price, sellers will take less than full price. Buyers have a lot of options there and saying, we need to have this done and this done and this done, and the seller will say, yes, we'll take care of all that. Here in a seller's market, which is where we have been for years, not at the level that we've been since COVID hit, but we have been in a strong seller's market, mostly three months or less for quite a few years. And that's when home prices appreciate. And in our local market, we've had consistently less than a month for quite some time. That means it is a super strong seller's market in which we have seen prices just escalate. And we'll talk about that when we get to our local market. But again, across the country entirely is in a seller's market. So reason why, look at what's happening with new monthly listing counts in thousands. So this is what happened last year. This was what happened in 2021. So January, 278,000 new listings across the country, going up to June and July, which is normal. You know, we have an increase come March. Our peak selling season across the country is typically summer, with people putting their homes in the market. And then look at what happened at the end of the year, November, December, a huge drop off in new listings across the country. That is kind of a traditional trend. We do have a drop off around the holiday time, end of the year. People just aren't thinking a lot about real estate, but we still had a lot of demand in our local market and across the country too. So this is also what's happening with active listings, the active monthly listing. So the other chart here was new listings. This is active listings. So this includes things that have been on the market for some time. And you can see again what's happened with the active listings. They drop off tremendously in December too. As we know within our own brokerage, when a new listing hits the market, it's usually gone in a few days. We have things at all different price points hitting the market, and if they are priced according to market, they are selling. So a lot of people are still thinking, what's going to happen? Are we at a point of time where we're going to have a housing bubble? That's not the case. But the fear is still there. Having lived through the housing recession, a lot of people are still worried about it. As far as consumers go, they're seeing the prices go up just like they did during the housing rise, just before the bubble burst. 77% of consumers think it's going to happen. This is the one that's frightening here. 44% of agents think that's going to happen. And I don't know where the agents are getting their data or what they're reading, what they're thinking, who's educating them. But for 44% of agents thinking that there's a housing bubble is to me kind of disconcerting. This is coming from realtor.com. So this is the source of this particular chart, this particular statistic. This is the reason why we're not going to have a bubble burst. It has to do with supply of existing homes. So this is looking at month supply of existing homes for sale in December 2007, just around the time we started entering into the housing crash. 2008, 2009, and 2010. This is again statistically across the country. I know in Central Oregon, we had more like 10, 11, 12 months of supply. It was crazy. We had so much inventory. It was such a buyer's market back then. That was the inventory of homes available. This is what is actually happened across the country in the last 4 years. We've had a strong seller's market. 2018, 3.7 months, 3 months, 1.9 months, and 1.8 months in 2021. We have no inventory. There's nothing to crash. The crash happened when we had such an inflated market. We had so many, well, we'll talk about that in just a second here too, but we don't have the inventory like we did before when the bubble burst before. Existing home sales have hit a 15-year record. So if you look at the number of home sales that we've had across the country, 2019, over 5 million, 2020, 5.6 million, and then here in 2021, over 6 million. So the home sales are at an extreme high. Anything that comes on market is being sold. And the other thing that is showing us that we're not going to have a bubble crash has to do with the security of the buyer. Look at this interesting chart here. This is talking about people who are buying with a loan with a credit score less than 620. We know that during the run-up to the bubble bursting in 2008, we had a lot of really loose lending practices in which we had the no-doc loans. Anyone walk in the door who could sign a document. They didn't have to verify employment. They didn't have to verify they could afford the home. All these sort of lending practices. Plus, everyone was willing to. I mean, people talked about the Texas loans, and I said, "What does the Texas loan mean?" They're highly inflated, very large, and people would come in, get their primary mortgage, and then immediately get HELOC as well. So you'd have a first and a second upon purchasing your initial home. Credit scores less than 620. These are people who are more at credit risk of default, and yet so many loans were happening that were not based upon a good financial background of the purchaser. That all has gone away. We don't have a lot of people who are getting loans with less than 620 credit score. So there you go. That's a whole different thing. We all know people who can afford to buy a home having to prove they can actually purchase it and pay for it. People are doing employment verifications. They're looking beyond credit scores. I mean, there's so many things that people have to do who are getting loans now to prove that they tax returns, all that stuff has to be verified. The other thing to think about here is the net worth. What's happening with people who are getting loans and who are purchasing homes. So with inventory at an all-time low, buyers are still having a difficult time finding a home. That is absolutely true. In our market, I am just blown away. I was having a chat with, I shouldn't say a friend, is a person I've been communicating with over my chat that I've been a subscriber to for probably 6 years. She lives in North Carolina. Her market it's following similar trends to us, but at a different price point. So she was saying yesterday to me that the home that she sold for $300,000 about 4 years ago is now on the market at $600,000, and she's just shocked at what's happened. In our market, the home that was on sale maybe 4 years ago for $700,000 is now at $1.1 million. And I'm shocked at that. Again, the trends are very similar. It's just at a different level. And buyers are still having a difficult time finding a home. If for no other reason, think about your typical buyer. Who can afford a $700,000 home, much less a $1.1 million home? Yet in our market, we're seeing people get them. You know, the wealth of the people who have moved to Central Oregon, it just amazes me. First-time home buyers are really challenged, especially if they have a questionable credit score. People are finding those markets in Central Oregon. We've talked about this for a while. That Madras is an affordable area. Prineville, not as affordable as it used to be. Lapine, not as affordable as it used to be, but still in relationship to what's happening here in Bend, they are affordable. Redmond, less affordable than it used to be. It's hard to find anything under $400,000 in Redmond now. But so first-time home buyers, and again, when did $400,000 become a first-time home buyer home price? I mean, I remember just a short time ago, first-time home buyers, $150,000. That was a great idea for them to get that start in wealth creation, but it's hard for first-time home buyers, definitely. But here's the difference in long-term net worth. The net worth of a homeowner versus a renter in 2021. A renter's net worth, statistically speaking, and the source of this is National Association of Realtors, is $8,000. The net worth of a homeowner is $300,000. And we all know that that has so much to do with equity that comes with your home. As you purchase your home, each month that you're paying your mortgage, you're adding to the value of your home, plus the price appreciation. Even if it's at a lower rate this year than it was last year, it's still having that price appreciation adding to the wealth of that homeowner, which is one of the reasons why we all recognize that homeownership is one of the best ways of creating wealth. In fact, statistically speaking, they say it's much more secure. People feel much better about that than the stock market. And as you have seen, if you have any stocks right now, they're going up and down quite a bit right now, very volatile market. And homeownership has historically been far more consistent. We all know we had that crash, but statistically speaking, over time, it is such a phenomenal way of building wealth. Here's the final, one of the final charts here. Think about that, what we just said. The net worth of a typical homeowner is about 40 times the net worth of a renter. So over time, the more we can encourage people to get into homes, or do they need encouragement to do that? People do like to own homes, and that it helps so much with building your net worth. The final chart here is just something to think about. This is from the National Association of Realtors. While the booming housing market contributed significantly to the recovery of the U.S. economy, research has consistently shown that homeownership is also associated with multiple economic and social benefits to individual homeowners. Homeownership has always been an important way to build wealth. Absolutely, it's the #1 way. Any questions on this? This is the national statistics. Any thoughts about it? Anything you want to contribute? Okay, if not, I'm going to go on to the local market now. Where are we? Ooh, get out of here. There we go. Here's the local market. Okay, slideshow from beginning. All right, so I always make a comparison to see where we are as a brokerage, comparing apples to apples. So I'm looking at February of 2021 versus February of 2022. How are we doing as a company? So as far as our listings, we had similar number of new listings that hit the market. The value of them are up slightly, 10% more in the listings here. Our pendings, however, are down a little bit. So we are down 19%, and I would attribute that to a couple of things. First of all, rising interest rates for mortgages. The inflation that we're starting to experience is definitely, it was coming up there in February. We were starting to see some changes to inflation. Strange market also with lack of inventory available. However, we closed 23% more than we did in 2021, and the value of these closings was almost $9 million more than what we had done in 2021. So again, price increases, closing higher volume of properties. And then again, year to date, we are 10 million over in closed sales than we were in 2021. So that's just 2 months so far. Kind of interesting, just to kind of see what's going on with that. So I always pull this chart out too. This is what's happening in Bend from MLS. And I always think that this is an interesting thing to look at. So if you look at our active listings, compare February, we're down. We have low inventory. Number of listings are way down. New listings though are creeping up. So that's a positive thing. But if you follow the same chart upward, are we kind of where we were last year? I don't know, maybe a little bit below that. Sold listings were down overall compared with, down compared with January. But listing prices, look what's going on with prices. The active median list price, and this chart for Bend residential includes Sun River. I've told you about that before. I can't pull off of this chart. I have it on another chart. I pulled Sun River out of it. But the active median list price is so up there. I keep on wondering, have we hit the top of the market, or are we going to start seeing that people just are not willing to pay that kind of money anymore? I don't know. I haven't seen that happen yet. Sold median sales price is up, and new median list price is way up too. Absorption rate, this is the number of listings that are sold. We're down again around half a month of supply. So again, a huge, extremely strong seller's market with everything hitting the market getting picked up. Sold to list price, we're again about 100%. So, people are getting what they're listing their properties for. Last year, March, April, May, this is when we're having all those huge bidding wars, bidding things up. So the average original list price ratio was up over asking price. Again, things being bid up. We dropped a little bit down below that, a little bit more negotiating here, but now we're back up to 100%. Days on market creeping up a little bit, around 40 days on market on an average. Cumulative days on market. That has to do with probably some new construction in there, maybe some other things that are just attributing to that. I'm not quite sure. We have some listings that have been on market for a while. Sometimes it's seller pricing in which the asking price is over market. Sometimes it's dealing with something that's an unusual piece of property. It's hard to see value in. Anyway, price volume. New list volume is going up, which is good. Sold volume kind of holding steady from January, and active list volume is dropping down. So we need new listings. I mean, I can't say enough, and I can't emphasize enough. That's the key for everybody right now. If you have your database, especially people who've owned a home for 4 or 5 years, it would be really good as a business practice to try to reach out to them. It's always good to communicate regularly with your database, with your sphere of influence, but to also especially reach out to the people who've owned homes for a while. Volunteer to let them know what their home is worth, and find out if they might be interested in moving, in selling their home, maybe moving into a different situation, a different state. I know we're dealing with people who are leaving Oregon right now. I know there's so many people coming here, and we're all working with buyers who are moving here, but we're also looking at a lot of long-term people who've lived here for a while, who are not necessarily happy with the changes that they're seeing in our market, seeing in our town, much less if those new regulations with LCDC, if the bureaucrats are successful in really pushing this high density thing onto all of into Bend, as well as those other 7 metropolitan areas, how that will change the look of Oregon and our cities and a lot of people aren't happy with that. And so we're seeing some of the long-term residents leaving this area. So reaching out to people who've lived here for a longer period of time who may be interested in leaving the state could be great for your business in maybe getting some listings. In fact, I know we got one of those, a 20-year resident who just called into the office, and they're moving out of state, and they don't like the changes here. So it's an opportunity. So here is the statistic, the chart I always produce every month. So what's happened in Bend, and this chart has taken out Sun River. So this is only Bend single-family homes on less than an acre, comparing apples to apples, February of 2022 versus February of 2021. And you can see active listings compared for 21 and 22, way down, 64% down compared with 2021. So listings are the key. We get a listing, we can get it sold. New listings are up a little bit. So the active listings are just inventory. It's down, way down. But new listings are up over 2021. So people are putting their homes on the market. It's up 17%. Pendings are up 146%. That's significant. So people are selling, and people are getting things in contract. Solds are up only 11%, but that's still good. But look at the sold volume. Again, the value, the difference here, solds are up 11%, but the sold volume was up 37%. That shows that the homes that we are selling right now are worth so much more over what they were just a year ago. The average sales price is now over $880,000. I am just shocked at that. That's 23%. And the median sales price is now at $769,000, up 29%. So when we talked about price increase on a national level, we're talking about 18%, 17.5 across the nation. Here at Bend, our market itself, it's what we are seeing, we're up like 30%. And I pulled up some data just to see what has happened over the last year. The median sales price for a Bend home for the last 2 years, from February of 2020 through February of 22, is up 67%. Just think about that. That's when the pandemic hit. We're up 67% in the value of a Bend home during those 2 years. I don't know where the top is. There has to be a top at some point. How much will people be willing to spend? We always talked about back in 2019, 2018, 2017, the relative prices of Bend compared with like the Bay Area, where people were coming from. A lot of our people moving here coming from Silicon Valley, in which a beat up rancher was worth $2 million. A 40-year-old beat up rancher was worth $2 million. We were always in relationship to them. They come to Bend, everything is super, super cheap. I don't know if we're going to become the next Silicon Valley as far as our prices. I hope not, because that really will price everybody out of the market. But it's all relative, I think, to where people are coming from. To me, I look at this and I'm like, a median sales price is $769,000. I'm floored. I am absolutely floored. But that's what we're seeing right now. And the percentage of list price to sales price for Bend single family residential, it's a little bit down. Months of supply, again, half a month. So there's where we are with that. I'm amazed at this. And then where's Bend Premier ranking? Always look at this chart too. So here we are. Last month we were like at number 9. This always happens at the beginning of the year based upon where our sales are falling. So we're right here, number 6 right now. And then for a brokerage of 50 brokers, 55 brokers, we're doing really, really well. I'm really proud of us as hardworking. You guys are just amazing how you produce. Just truly amazing. So with that, any questions or comments about any of this?
I have a comment.
Yeah, hi, Catherine.
Hi. When I was in Portland, I was really strongly considering moving here to Sisters, and the prices then seemed too high. That was September 2020. Yeah. My family got an opportunity to move to Jackson, Wyoming, and the prices there were doing the same thing, just going up through the roof. And having an idea there what the real estate was like and what the community was like, looking at places like Bend, the economy is great, opportunity is great. Lots of, at the time, there was more inventory available and the prices were low. So I can see a lot of room for prices to go higher because people who look at places like Jackson are also looking at Bend. And Bend is a lot more affordable. They have a lot of money to come to town with and play with.
So it's all relative to where you're from. I mean, for us who've lived here a long time, we're amazed. I know my husband built our house 22 years ago as a builder. I think the build cost was maybe $200,000 for the house plus the land. I think was $50,000, so maybe $250,000 in our house. It's obviously worth a lot more than that now, but it's relative. And yeah. So Jackson, I didn't think about Jackson as something to look at as a comparison. But true, yeah, it's a resort area, a place people come for the lifestyle, all that. Yeah. Thanks, Catherine.
Yeah.
Any other comments about this? Okay, if not, how about haves and wants? Any haves or wants? Yeah, Catherine?
I have a new have. It's an unusual one that I haven't worked with before, but I have a gentleman who's interested in buying a restaurant here in Central Oregon. He has one in Klamath Falls that is closing, and he wants to move here. So I know that we have one in Redmond right now. That's actually pretty cool looking, and I have another person interested in going to look at that. But if we know of any other leads of restaurants in the area, and plus I'd like to talk to you about that too.
Yeah, is he looking for the actual real estate or is he looking just for the business aspect? Does he want to
like a lease?
The lease? Yeah.
I think he has his own brand and his own identity. I think he does want to buy a building, but I'm not clear on that, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about.
Sure, happy to help you with that. You can look at LoopNet. That's a good source of places to. Have you looked at LoopNet at all yet?
No, but I heard about it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll talk. Yeah.
Okay.
After the meeting. Sounds good.
Great.
Any other haves or wants?
I have
Julie?
someone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have someone who's interested in some investment property, so either duplexes or even a really small home in some outlying areas, like Madras or Prineville, and she wants it to be really small to potentially rent out to traveling nurses. So like a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, some updating is fine. So yeah, just something like that.
Do you have a price point for her?
Kind of. I mean, if it's a fixer upper, she kind of wants it to be, under the 200,000 to 300,000, but she's also looked at duplexes in the 4, 5, and 6 range. According to her lender, she could go a little bit above that, but I don't think that's really comfortable or something she wants to do. So just,
Okay.
something like that, kind of broad, I know.
Sounds good. Okay, any other haves or wants? All right, if there isn't anything else, this is all I have for today. Oh, buyer need from Karen. Lot in Bend to build a manufactured home under 199,000. Oh, wow. So that the lot is 199,000, right, Karen? Yes, okay. So a lot in Bend that they can put a manufactured home on for under 199. Wow, that's going to be a hard one. If I hear of anything, I'll let you know. I haven't heard of anything, Karen. You can always try Central Oregon haves and wants and see if anyone has something there too. If you don't know about that, that's a Facebook page. You get to by invitation. And if you're not a member of that, we can get you invited. Anything else from anybody? Okay, if not, thank you so much, and have a great day.